Jason DeSalvo from Fodera Guitars, and I'm here today with Anthony Wellington, good friend, killer bass player, Fodera endorser. We're going to talk about Fodera strings today, something that we don't spend a lot of time talking about.
Yeah, not enough people discuss strings.
Yeah, and it's funny, right? We, as a company, our ethos is to use the greatest ingredients and kind of painstakingly build these things so that they can have the finest possible sounds, and yet a whole lot of people that I know play with dead strings, cheap strings, bad strings. And so Vinny and Joey, they've been making strings as long as I've known. I think we've been making strings over 25 years as a company.
Since I bought my first Fodera in the 90s, I've been using Fodera strings.
Yeah. And we used to make them all in-house. We used to make them at the shop in Brooklyn. And kind of, we evolved into, we do them off-site now, but we started making them because we could not get strings that did what we wanted to. We always found that the strings became a limiting factor in the sound of the bass. So Vinny and Joey, being the kind of fanatics that they are, they kind of dissected strings the same way they did with instruments. What makes it work? And it all comes down to real simple stuff like ingredients, getting the best stuff and getting out of the way.
It only makes sense to me because as a player, and of course we're both players, that is the contact point for a musician.
Right.
That's how we interface with the instrument.
That's right.
Primarily through the strings. So it's amazing to me that players will actually overlook that aspect of it and then wonder what's wrong with the bass. You know
what, later on I want to egg you on. I know you got one of your basses that you just bought that I was looking at that's got some pretty dead strings on it.
Yeah.
I'm going to make you take them off. The best players in the world don't change their strings as often as they should, but I'm going to make you take them off, and we're going to put a fresh set of the same kind of strings on, and see if we can hear the difference. So
I'm excited about
we'll do that. And yeah, we'll see how that works. We build them in a barn in Western Pennsylvania, and we got 3 people. I think you may have met them.
I met them. I've been to the barn.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you know them. So it's Mary Alice and Rick and Tom, and they've been with us for years, and that's all they're doing for us is making our strings. I think some of the things that we do, the people are very experienced that make them, and obviously they're getting constant feedback. Joey, me, all the gangs in the shop, we're playing these instruments, people like you, right? If there's something that we don't like about the strings, we just fix it. We don't have to go through a manufacturing process or what have you. We just basically say, Rick, they're coming too tight. We have to loosen the tension. All strings start with a core wire that is steel. Okay. And if you didn't have a steel core wire, you wouldn't have the magnetic pull on the magnets.
Makes sense,
so we all start with core wire that's steel. Then what you wrap them with, stainless steel strings get wrapped with stainless steel wrap.
Right.
Nickel strings actually are, for most manufacturers, the inner wraps of strings are wrapped with steel. Only the outer wrap is nickel. When we blind tested them by doing them the way most people make them, we found 100% of the time we preferred the all nickel wraps. So we do all nickel wraps on all of our nickel strings.
So when it comes to tension, how would you characterize the tension of Fodera strings as opposed to maybe other manufacturers, what they're doing? Man,
tension is tough on strings, and it's something that Joey, me, and Vinny have messed with a lot to try and get what we consider the perfect balance. If they're too loose, they feel kind of fun. You can do lots of bends and stuff like that, but tonally they really lose a lot of that presence. If they're too tight, they can sound fabulous, but then your right hand gets really tired and they feel like bridge cables. So we basically, I don't even know from a measurement standpoint what our tension is. What we did is work with Rick and Tom and Mary Alice to say, make us multiple different tensions, and then we played them. Take them out on a gig, play them, practice with them, play them. Joey, me, and Vinny compare notes, and we settled on the ones that we felt were right at the sweet spot between really kind of high tension strings, which sound great but don't feel great, and low tension strings, which feel really great but kind of lose some tone. We're really shooting for something that feels really good but also sounds great. So I'd classify them as medium tension. You've had a lot of experience at a very high level of playing our strings, and obviously you can choose any strings you want. Why? What about our strings? What were you digging about them?
Well, it only makes sense to me. I'm playing that bass made by the company who I think of, as the pinnacle of what this instrument is, and
Thank
it only makes sense that if a company like Fodera decides to get into making strings, the strings will be the same thing. You know, it will represent the pinnacle of what string making is. It only made sense to me. So, and I bought my first Fodera in '99, and they've always had sets of Foderas on them. So, Fodera strings on them. So I love them. I absolutely love how they play. I love how they feel. I know that they're going to be good because of the name that's on it.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. And this is, I guess, this is what you play on the 4-string. So on the 4 strings that Anthony plays our lightest gauge, right? So he's playing nickel strings with 40, 55, 75, and 95. And then when you go over to a 5-string, you throw a 120 on there.
Mm-hmm. And then we have a 6.
And then on a 6, you go down to the 28 on the nickel.
And
that's right. What's coming? I forgot. We are building you a 7.
That's right.
God, what are we going to put on that? I got to remember. We got to make you strings for that.
Yeah.
What we're going to do next, I think, let's get one of your basses set up.
Okay.
We'll have you play a little bit with a bass with dead strings, and then we'll throw a fresh set of strings on them, and we'll see what we hear difference there, and then we'll throw a fresh set of stainless steel strings on, and we'll kind of do ABC. Sound good?
Yeah, and I'm never going to say no to a fresh set of strings.
All right, man, let's do it. So we enjoyed hanging with you and talking to you a bit about our strings. Again, we make our own. A couple of the other takeaways, you got to hear stainless steel and nickel, and you got to hear a dead set of nickel against a new set of nickel. Like Anthony said, we don't OEM these strings. We make them because we really think the instruments sound better, and we're thrilled that you're on board to help us try to get the word out about the strings, and thanks, man.
I'm excited about it, man.